slope-intercept form of linear equations. That's the equation y equals mx plus b. Okay, before we start, let's just remind ourselves what is a linear equation. Okay, a linear equation is an equation that when you graph it, it's going to look like a straight line. And usually what that means is there's either an x or a y or both, and they're only to the power 1. So let me give some examples of linear equations. So here's just 3 different equations. The first one, 2x plus 5y is minus 3. There's an x, there's a y, they're both to the power 1. Or y equals 1/2 x plus 4, there's an x, there's a y, they're both to the power 1. Or even 2x equals 7, just an x, it's to the power 1. These are all examples of linear equations. Now that first example is a special kind of example. When both the x and the y are on the left side of the equal sign, we call that standard form. But what we're going to talk about more in this video is the slope-intercept form. So when you have just y equals on the left side of the equation, some number in front of x, and then some added or subtracted number. So the equation will look like y equals mx plus b. That's called slope-intercept form. So our example, y equals 1/2 x plus 4, you can quickly see, because it's in slope-intercept form, that the slope of the line that we graph will be 1/2, and the y-intercept of the line, that means where it crosses the y-axis, will be at 4. Let's reinforce this doing a few examples. We remember slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where the number in front of the x is the slope, and the added or subtracted number is the y-intercept. So in this example, the number in front of x, minus 2/3, is the slope. And this term, minus 4, is the y-intercept. So to graph the line, let's start with the y-intercept. That's the easy part. We know the graph is going to cross the y-axis at -4. So we'll put a dot there. Now for the second dot, we always need 2 dots to draw a line. For the second point, we'll use the slope. Now just as a reminder, when you have a negative slope, it is acceptable to put the negative sign either on top, or you can put it on the bottom, or you could put it in the middle. It doesn't matter any way you choose. I usually put it on top. And remember, slope equals the rise over the run, the change in y over the change in x. And so minus 2 means we should go down 2, and plus 3 on the bottom means we should go right 3. So if we started on our y-intercept on our first point and we go down 2, right 3, we would get a second point right there. We could even do more points if you wanted. If you had chosen to put the minus sign on the bottom, that's the rise over run. That's saying you go up 2 every time you go left 3. So starting at that first point, if we went up 2 and left 1, 2, 3, we'd get another point, and certainly that's enough to draw the line. So there's the line. Let's do another similar example. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So in this example, the number in front of the x is the slope, and the added or subtracted term, in this case plus 1, is the y-intercept. So if we were going to graph it, it's always easiest to start at the y-intercept. That's the point on the graph where the line will cross the y-axis. So it will cross at plus 1. We'll draw that point. And then we use the slope to find a second point. So the slope, usually it's in a fraction form. In this case, we just see the number 3. This is the one time in math where we actually prefer fractions. Let's put it over 1. 3 over 1 is still equal to 3. Remember that slope is just the rise over the run, which is the change in y over the change in x. Both of these numbers in this case are positive. That means every time we go up 3, we're going to go right 1. So let's do that. We go up 1, 2, 3, and we go right 1, and we find another point. Now that should be enough, but if you wanted to make more points, go up 3, go right 1. You can make as many points as you want in a stair step, and then connect the dots. So this would be the graph of the line y equals 3x plus 1. It's in slope-intercept form. The slope is 3. The y-intercept is 1. Now, in this example, they didn't give us an equation, but they gave us the slope, and then they also tell us the y-intercept. So even without an equation, if we know those two things, that's enough to graph the line. So always start at the y-intercept. It's minus 2. That means there is a point at minus 2, y equals to minus 2, where the graph is going to cross that y-axis. And now from that point, we will use the slope to find another point. So remember, when there's a minus slope, you can put that minus sign either on the top of the fraction, or you can put it on the bottom of the fraction. Either way, it is equivalent. So in this case, the change in the y would say go down 3 every time you go right 5. So if we stand on this first point and go down 3 and then go right 5, we would get a second point right here. Now that's enough to graph, but if you wanted another point, we can say, all right, that's the same as saying positive 3 over negative 5. That means if you go up 3, it's like going left 5. So from our original point, if we go up 1, 2, 3, and go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we'd get even another point, and that's enough to connect the dots. And from this point, it should be simple enough to write the equation of the line, even though it was not given to us. The slope was given to us as minus 3 over 5. The y-intercept was given to us as minus 2. So then all we must do is replace those two numbers. Y equals minus 3/5 x minus 2. So there's our equation. Let's do a second example like this. They didn't give us an equation, but they told us the slope is 1/2. The y-intercept is 3. It's always helpful in graphing to start at the y-intercept. That means the line will cross the y-axis at 3. And now the slope of 1/2. What that means is every time you go up 1, you should go right 2, because both of those are positive. So we go up 1, right 2, we get another point. If you want a few more points just to make the graph more pretty, you can stair step it up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2. Like this, we could put lots of points and then connect the dots to get the graph of the line. And then we remember y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. The slope was 1/2. The intercept given was 3. So we get a final equation, y equals 1/2 x plus 3. Okay, now sometimes the equation is not given in slope-intercept form. Like for this example, this is standard form. Both the x and the y are on the left. And for graphing, it's a lot easier often if we have slope-intercept form. So here's how we can convert it. We'll move the x to the right. So I will add 12x onto both sides. We end up with 4y equals 12x minus 8. Now we want y all alone on the left to get it to be slope-intercept form. So we can divide everything by this number 4. And when we simplify that, we'll get an equation in slope-intercept form, y equals 3x minus 2. So in this case, the slope is 3, and the y-intercept is minus 2. And remember, when graphing, we always want to start with the y-intercept, so there's a point at -2. Then a slope of 3. Remember, in this case, we actually prefer the fraction 3 over 1. That means every time you go up 3, because this is a +3, that means you should go right 1. So 1, 2, 3, right 1. If we want to make a lot of points, we can just stair step it up 3, right 1. And we can connect these dots, and there is the graph of the equation. Let's do one more example like this to practice. Again, this is standard form, which it's not quite as easy to graph, so we'll try to rearrange things to make it slope-intercept form. So I'll move the x term onto the right side of the equation, and we're left with 2y equals -5x. I like to write the x term first, so it's already starting to look more like slope-intercept form. And then we will isolate the y. We want only y on the left, so we'll divide both sides, every term, by 2. And we end up with the equation y equals -5/2 x plus 3. So remember, this first term is the slope, -5/2. And this second added or subtracted number is the y-intercept. So I make my first point at 3 on the y-axis. That's where the graph is going to cross the y-axis. And the slope tells me that every time I go down 5, then I should go right 2. Running out of room there. So go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go right 2. If you want more points, you can make more points. And then you can connect the dots to graph the equation of the line.